Don't really attack the network anymore. The target is your applications and the target is the data. So let's move on to the application security timeline. 1996, the first time a web application was actually categorized as, or given a name, the PHF vulnerability, one of the earliest ones to do that, and it actually had about 25 million names at the time because every vendor gave it a different name. But that's the very first one. And shortly thereafter, in 98, App Shield came out. So here we're dealing with application sort of firewalling. We can see AppScan came out in 99, between 99 and 2000, and Whisker, which Whisker was written by a 19-year-old kid who was pretty much only known as Rainforest Puppy, RFP. And he wrote these libraries that did web scanning, much like, sure heard of Nmap and Nessus and all that kind of stuff. Well, Whisker was just to look at web servers and applications on web servers. OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Project, was founded in 2001, and they are kind of the ones that really only focus on web application security, right? So then we had Mod Security, URL Scan, a couple of other tools that came because of Code Red and other hacks that were taking place directly targeting the application layer. The SAMI one came out in 2004, 2005, and like I said, around with the same timeline above that, back in 2005, 2006, around that time, like I said, the adoption of consultants being used for penetration testing became the norm. All right, so then we see, like we saw there with mass targeted hacking taking place in 1996, now when we're dealing with applications, the hacking here happens to be on SQL or database. Right, so mass SQL injection is taking place right now as we all sit here and talk. This is still one of the biggest concerns and issues that we see, even at our service provider level. In-house network vulnerability scanning, like I said, that was adopted in 2008, 2009. Like I said, that became the norm now. Everybody pretty much is doing this. There's a few other things that came out. The PCI deadline in 6.6 was to be met in 2008, 2009. So here we are at 2010. We do have the adoption of several security technologies in place. We do have an in-house vulnerability scanning. We do have all kinds of things from PCI to FISMA and HIPAA and you name it, right? So the question is really what's going to be the next major incident before the technologies that really should be in place now are adopted, such as web application firewalling. Right? We don't really care about ports anymore when the attacker is really looking at the data and going through every single application out there today is a web application. It's all over a browser. So that's what we're going to talk about more here. But the point is, where we see some of the future adoption is, for example, broad software as a service, network vulnerability scanning, Qualys and all that. That's been adopted. The same things will start to happen for web application security. One of the things that I wonder is, when it comes to software development lifecycle, really these are all issues that have to do with software development. They're not an issue that has to do with networking. This is all because a programmer didn't put the right input validation in an application to allow some of these things to happen. So when is software development or the software development lifecycle going to be a completely normal and adopted security procedure and testing going to happen? I think that's really kind of the future of things that we'll see. So let's look at 2008 at a glance here. Biggest malware threats were SQL injection, attacks against websites, and the rise of scareware, which we'll talk about this new term. New web infections, it is said that one new infected web page, and by that I mean legitimate web pages, are discovered by Sophos every 4.5 seconds a new web page is hacked. And we'll talk about why that's important, not somebody's computer, but a web page. Malicious email attachments, 5 times more at the end of 2008 than at the beginning of 2008. That's how many emails had malicious attachments. Spam-related web pages. One new web page related to gathering information due to a spam campaign, let's call it that, is discovered every 15 seconds. This is all the source here is Sophos from some of the reports that they do. New scareware sites. 5 new scareware sites are identified every day. Top malware hosting country, and we'll talk more about these coming up here, as well as the top spam relaying continents. Now check this out. 97% of all email is spam. all business email. So that's a lot of email. All right, so the online threat, exploitation of legitimate websites. This is really where it's at these days, okay? What we call client-side attacks. Client-side attacks is basically we will hack a website, a legitimate website, and then put malicious code on the website. Any user that browses that website is hacked. So we're not going after individual users. We can just hack a website, and if it's a real important and very high traffic website like, say, CNN, then you just hacked tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. Anyone who goes to the website, and for the most part, they wouldn't even realize it happened. The email threats, we'll talk about that. Malware, we'll talk about Apple and Macs, mobile devices and Wi-Fi, data leakage, and state-sponsored activities. And I gotta click on this. All right, so exploitation of legitimate websites. Thousands of websites belonging to Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, and schools were infected with malicious code in January of 2008. These were these client-side exploits, which these vulnerabilities are system-wide, are vulnerabilities against system-wide libraries in Windows and Mac and many other operating systems as well. For example, by system-wide libraries, what I mean is, for example, the libraries that render a JPEG when you go to a web page. What processes that to be something that is supposed to be an image. And if those are vulnerable, then through those you could take advantage of any client who is displaying a JPEG, right? So again, all this is through the web browser. Now web browsers, if we want to talk about vulnerabilities here, web browsers have even more vulnerabilities than web servers have, because web browsers have, I mean, literally a ton of different types of plugins and different types of code that a web browser will execute. So look at the number of vulnerabilities by browser in 2008, Internet Explorer 31, Safari 32, Opera 30, Firefox 115. Well, wait a second, everybody thought Firefox was more secure than using Internet Explorer. No, just because more people started using Firefox, the focus went to Firefox. If you look at the number of vulnerabilities in browser plugins, like I said, that's just one of many components that make this more of an issue. Firefox's extensions, only one. Opera, nothing. ActiveX, 366 different vulnerabilities found in ActiveX, which of course are run by Firefox and Internet Explorer. Java, 54, Flash, 19, QuickTime, 30. Now, here's some examples of this. In February of 2008, a UK broadcaster, their name is ITV, was the victim of a poisoned web advertising campaign designed to deliver scareware to Windows and Mac users. Now, that doesn't mean their website got hacked. Their advertising campaign got hacked, which is even more interesting because that campaign is running on other websites other than their own. In March of 2008, a site that's selling tickets for the European 2008 Football Championship was hacked, and at the same time, around the same time in March, a well-known antivirus firm, Trend Micro, found that a bunch of its web pages had also been altered and had malicious script. 2008, April of 2008, Cambridge University Press's website was compromised, so that way visitors to the online dictionary of Cambridge University Press's dictionary were subject to unauthorized hacker scripts running on their browser side. Some more examples. And Wimbledon tennis tournament was just starting in the UK. The Association of Tennis Professionals was infected with malware. And in July of 2008, Sony's US PlayStation website suffered a SQL injection attack, which allowed the basic consumers of PlayStation were at risk of scareware, which we'll talk more about scareware in a minute. Business Week magazine was infected with a SQL injection attack as well in September, allowing for users that were going to Business Week